All right, good morning. I hope you can hear me okay over the noise. I'm in Central Park again on holiday, and Arthur has asked me to do a bunch of videos which are the main questions that we get asked quite regularly while I'm on holiday. So last time I did a run around Central Park for an hour and then took a couple of videos, which probably wasn't very flattering because I was really red-faced. So today I'm ready to run, but I thought I'd do the video first and then go for my run. It's probably nicer for you guys watching. Anyway, forgive the camera skills. So today, one of the main questions we get asked is, how much money do I need to start? And it's a really good question. And I think the classic feeling is, I need money to start. And of course you do. You do need some funds. And the classic feeling is that money is going to be the problem to stop me moving forward, because that feels, and I felt it myself, that feels at the beginning like the resource out of time, money and skills, the resource that is going to be problematic for you actually being able to start. But actually, time is your biggest game changer. Money you can get, excuse me, my camera skills are amazing today. So yes, normally, typically, a person to be able to start to do buy to let. Now, up in the north, you guys are going to be a little bit cheaper. I do have one flat in Glasgow where my son lives that I bought for 135,000. That's still city centre Glasgow, I suppose. But you know, some of my guys, my mentoring guys, are buying stuff in like Stoke and up further north for kind of 70,000, which is wonderful. But typically, you're going to need at least, I would say, 50 grand for a deposit, a bit of legal fees, and some level of renovation to just kick yourself off. So, two questions. What if I have 50 grand and that's all I have? Well, get going. But I don't just mean get going and buy anything. I want you to buy a discounted property. I want you to take a lot of time and a lot of focus and making sure it's significantly discounted, so that very precious 50 grand or so that you've got to start off with, you can renovate the property. She's doing what I'm about to do. Renovate the property, recycle the money by refinancing to the correct loan to value, say 75% loan to value of its current value. And that's how I started. I started with 60 grand. I bought two properties. Let me give you the classic. One of them I bought for 85,000 at auction. I was terrified because, I mean, who buys properties at auction? Excuse me, let's make sure. Look at that. How cute is that? I bought it for 85,000. It was 7,800 to renovate, and I knew before I bought it was worth 130. So when you do 75% of 130, I actually pulled all my cash back out, so I could go buy another property. So if you are buying with a small amount of money, and 50 grand is a large amount of money, but nonetheless it kind of realistically is quite a small amount of money, I want you to be able to source incredibly well, like my 85,000, 7,000 renovation revalued at 130, and that was revalued within 6 months, Rick's valuation, so that you can take your money out and go again. I then actually decided I wanted to go faster, because at that point they put in the 6-month rule. Prior to that, there wasn't a 6-month rule. 6-month rule meaning you can't refinance within 6 months. So you got it renovated, you got tenants in, and then you've sat there like totally twiddling your thumbs. Prior to that, you could refinance straight away and go again. So my next step, I had my original 60 grand, I pulled out my mortgage. My next step was to then borrow money from other people. So and I actually borrowed £600,000. I bought a £1.8 million portfolio, which is my baby beginner portfolio now. At the time, I was like, oh my God, that's huge. And now I'm like, oh, that's really cute. And then I was able to jump out my job and apply time. So number one is probably to start yourself about 50 grand. Typically London more, up north less, but kind of broadly, you know, about 50 grand. Number two is the second stage that I did, which was, okay, I want to go faster because the 6-month rule was hampering the speed at which I wanted to jump out of my job. Let me be quite frank. Is to look at whether you're going to be able to borrow money from other people. And of course, there's two ways of doing that. And I can't give you financial advice and I can't give you legal advice. So you must take your own financial and legal advice. It's just my thoughts, really. There's two ways of doing that. Let's go and see. Should we see what's going on behind me in Central Park? Because it's quite good fun. Two ways of doing that. You can either borrow money directly as a loan, and that's more or less what I did. So I borrowed 600,000 at fairly eye-watering interest rate. They all got paid. You know, I lived on beans on toast for so long, but I was fortunate enough to build up the assets, which is wonderful. Or you can joint venture. Now you need to be aware of things like the variability of that opportunity and look at things like 13.3, make sure you're familiar with it. But what that would mean is that you and your joint venture partner would potentially buy a property, renovate it, and then sell it again, thereby creating profit for both of you. So So there's a couple of different ways you can do that, and of course if you were to joint venture, and you'll be learning your trade at the same time, wouldn't you? Because you'd be renovating, you'd be selling, you'd be building lump sums of cash without you putting the money in yourself. Because the way we joint ventures, our JV partners own the property, they buy the property, we do all the work, we do all the finding, and then we split the profit. So you don't necessarily need a huge amount of money to start, and I absolutely don't want you thinking that money stops you. You know, do it, just do it. However, if you are borrowing from, if you're using your own funds, the number one key is sourcing. You've got to buy discounted. You've got to be very, very sure it's a very good deal, and that the renovation costs are as low as you can possibly make them, and that you're absolutely sure who you're going to refinance with and how much money you intend to get back out. You know, so it's about sourcing skills really, not actually finance skills. And number two is, if you're going to borrow money from other people, whether it's joint ventures or whether it's a direct loans, I want you to project your cash flow out for at least 18 months, because that money borrowed from someone else is incredibly precious, and you've got to be very, very careful with it, particularly if it's borrowed on a loan, because, you know, you've agreed to pay interest, you've agreed to repay them on a certain date, and you can't delay that. There's no messing around there. You have to put that money back. So you need to make sure that all your projects are going to deliver out the cash in advance on that date, or at least a month early, so you're sat there going, phew, I don't need to worry about it. So I projected out early days about 18 months cash flow, and it just really helped me. I mean, you know, there are moments of anxiety, of course, but it really helped me make sure that the serious level of money that I was borrowing could go back out to people at the appropriate time. So I suppose the answer is, you can start with as little or as much as you've got, source really well, or bring in third-party resources, OPM, other people's money. But if you do, A, make sure they're secured very carefully, B, make sure you do your cash flow, and C, make sure you do your sourcing and your renovation approximations or your quotes, so that the project absolutely stacks up and is a profitable project to refund that cash flow back out. And typically you will find, if you start getting into property in any kind of serious level, you will need to look at borrowing in the money at some point. And of course what you do typically is you start by borrowing from private finance, and then move across to refinancing with either buy-to-let mortgages, or then you move on to commercial mortgages. So I suppose it's about having a very strong business case really, that, you know, is this asset worth more than I'm buying it for? Can I renovate it and again increase the value? Can I rent it out for high yielding, high cash flow? And can I get a bank to refinance it to pay back my original investor? And of course, once you've figured out that equation, you can go again and again and again and build a very significant portfolio. I would strongly suggest that you live on squat diddly bugger all. It's an official term. I mean, I did. I moved from a marketing director salary to living on very little, simply because you want to make sure all that money works, and there's no point spending it because you can't spend it twice, and I'd rather you spent it on assets, delayed your gratification, and then spent it on yourself a number of years later. I mean, I went on a 7-year buying spree. I like aeroplanes, they were non-stop for 7 years. And so although technically, you know, I was financially free within 18 months, I didn't actually live on my properties for quite a long time, because literally every single penny came back out the properties, went straight back in for the next one. So just be aware that your investors aren't going to be impressed if you have high living standards, but also your investment program will be less effective if you spend the money, clearly. Anyway, good luck. I would definitely say do it. I would definitely say write a business plan, write a cash flow, be very, very short in your sourcing, and do a lot of research. And I hope it goes really well for you. Take care. Bye.